Hey guys, I'm here with the finished project of a removable high-low blind on an 1854 Go Devil surface drive boat. It took me about a month and a half from the time I really got rolling on it. I have another job, so this is not my full-time gig. So I work on it on a few days off and evenings and mornings before work. If you followed along, you kind of know the main idea of this boat. A friend of mine has a surface drive motor. I built a high-low like this on mine last year with a tiller, and I have a steering console up in the front. Not really able to do that with this boat due to the fact that he wants to be able to take it down to Arkansas also and use it in the woods after our duck season is done. And of course, this would be a miserable idea to take through the woods, so this is removable. My boat was permanent, it's just attached right to the boat itself, so that was actually a lot easier than this. So that whole front piece up here that you'll see, the little raised part, that's all the decoy storage. I'll show you kind of some of the details on that in just a minute. That comes off as one solid piece. This piece here comes off as one solid piece. This comes off as one solid piece. And then each of these two little panels come off as a piece. This was kind of the best idea I could think of to hide the boat and where the driver is gonna be, but still allow someone to drive a surface drive. These two panels each fall down flat along the side of the boat. I think they actually work pretty well. I think he should be able to drive it basically like he would if they weren't there. And then when we get to hunting, it won't actually be a real big project to set it up. All you gotta do is flip it up, put a switch underneath, flip this one up. I've got a little lock here that just slides out that this rests on if you want it higher, or after I got done making that, I realized we could just set it on the handle of the motor, and it actually drops it down a little bit lower so those ducks coming in can't see underneath it. So I actually really like that. Just going to give you a couple quick dimensions here for those that are looking. So the hunting cabin part from here up to right there is exactly 10 feet long. I do that for a couple reasons. One, it's just a good length, gives you plenty of decoy storage. Back here you needed that. On my boat I did the same. So rather than having this standing space back here, mine has other storage in the back. The blind still runs continuous, but it actually has some other compartments there. 10 feet in a boat like this will allow you to hunt 4 people. If you're going to hunt 4 people a lot, I would recommend doing 11 or 12 feet if you can. 10 feet is super comfortable for 3 people. Allows you to spread out, put your stuff on the seats. Probably have this much room in between everybody. It's really nice. If you had to hunt 4 people, it's not uncomfortable, but it's starting to get a little bit tight. This deal here, this back piece, is 48 inches from this piece down to the floor. And when you're making this, you want to measure from the floor. Don't ever measure off your gunnels, at least for initial measurements, until you know what your gunnels do for the length of the boat. Sometimes they'll rise in relation to the floor, which, if you consider the fact that you're sitting on the floor, you need that, and your seat is going to be on the floor, you need that height to be fairly constant along the seat, so you want to come off the floor always. This piece here, I believe, is 38 inches. So I've minimized the height difference on these, which I think is pretty important. When the duck comes in, they're coming in from that angle, so that means that whole thing is open then. So really, the higher this can be in relation to this, the better. If you have this real low, there's going to be a big gap, and you're kind of defeating the purpose of having a blind like this, because you're relying totally on these, which I'll get to in a minute as well. This channel I'm standing in on this boat, I made it 22 inches wide. On mine, since my boat is a 60-inch wide boat, a little bit wider beam, I made it 24 inches. I would recommend 24 if you can. We just did this one because it's narrower, and it allows this stuff to be deeper. So how I've told a couple people that I would gauge how to make these things, I would always consider yourself to have 22 to 24 inches on this, and that space is taken up down the middle. Not really negotiable. It has to be at least that wide. You can move it a little bit this way or that way, depending on how you want the depths of these to be. For this boat, I made the backside a little bit deeper than I did the front, just so that we can get tucked up underneath and out a little bit more. And then the front, you really don't need to have as wide. I mean, you only want so much stuff on your shelves. You don't need it to be so big. So this is a little bit deeper than this is, not a lot. but they're pretty close. So those are some of the basic dimensions that I would say. As far as like materials that I use, most of the frame of the blind that you saw being built earlier is built with 1 inch diameter, 1 inch square tubing, aluminum, and it's 1/16 inch wall. The only places where I did different than that was on this bar that runs the length up here and the bar that runs the length here. This is 1x2 and it's 1/8 inch wall. The reason I did that because that's what supports the majority of the weight if someone's going to be getting up on top of it, and it just provides a lot more integrity, I guess, to the blind having that thicker stuff there. The one thing about the 1/16 is it is kind of a pain to weld. It's really thin. The 1/8 stuff is beautiful to weld. It's super easy, I think. The 1/16 though is really thin, and it's easy to burn through it. So yeah, that's one consideration. But the amount of weight savings that you gain using the 1/16 versus the 1/8 throughout the whole thing, to me, is for sure worth it. And essentially, it's half the weight. So that's a big difference. The sheeting is 0.032 aluminum. I actually just rivet mine on all the way along. I probably use 600 rivets. I have a little air riveter that I use. I don't think you can weld. You might be able to weld this stuff, I guess, but it's so thin that I think it'd just be an immediate burn through and wouldn't actually get you anything on. So riveting is really the only option. I would also recommend anywhere where there's contact, where you have a bar coming across or the outside frame, go get some, like not window insulation, but there's this little insulation you can put underneath there. It'll quiet a lot in the metal noise up as well. Stick that across all your things and then come back and rivet it down. I'm going to pop up here to the decoy storage area quick and just explain what we got going on. Alright, so this came from the idea of my own boat. I haven't really seen it on any other manufactured boats yet, but I think it's an awesome way to move decoys around in a boat like this. So what we do is I just made basically a box, kind of a 5-sided box here to match the front of the boat, and it's probably at about 42 inches high. I'm expecting that in this we should be able to get somewhere around 80 decoys. It's a little bigger than I thought it was going to be, so that's a good thing, I guess. So what we do is our decoys go in here. I've got a hatch on the top that we can throw everything in, whether it's from the water or if someone's in the boat, you can throw them in this way, and this will all fill up. And then you'll see right down here there's a little hatch, and I'll show you that in just a minute. That hatch will swing up and it locks up in place like this, vertical. So when you're out in the water, you're grabbing decoys from the water level, so you don't have to climb up in the boat or have someone hand them to you. I think this is probably one of the slickest ideas that I have on my boat, and I love it. I wouldn't build a boat without it again if I was doing a boat like this. Other than that, not much special up here. It's got a LED bar on the front, ran back to a switch back there so the driver can get it while he's running. I do have a wall here that separates the decoy storage from the blind, so when you're in the blind, you're basically in your own little compartment. You're not feeling wind. There's nowhere for wind to get in at all. Pretty slick. Now, these guys here are what I do. I'm not going to usually have 4 people, and I don't think Mark will either. So what we do is we make these pieces. These are 1/16 inch aluminum. I use 1/8 on my boat. They're a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier. In this boat, weight was a little more of a consideration due to the surface drive than my boat with an outboard. So we went for 1/16. We'll have to excuse the local lawnmower and football team down the road. You can probably hear them. But so what these do is these provide a couple things. One, when you're driving your boat or you're parked overnight in the hotel or outside your house and it rains or snows or whatever, this is not going to let anything inside. You keep these on. I've got bungees on them, and they just attach down to the frame on this side, and they get attached back to a little clip that I've got inside attached to the ceiling. That keeps them locked down super tight. I got 5 of them. I just took 2 of them out so I can move around in here a little bit. And this is how it would look, like say 2 of us are on. We put a guy down there and a guy here, and then you've got all this covered in between you. If you want, you can take a little extra sheet of fast grass or and kind of put it off to the side to close off a little bit. But once you start getting the tumbleweeds on here, it closes this off really well. But these are super slick. I would highly recommend them. The other thing that they do too, besides just keep your boat nice and dry inside, is they will actually keep a ton of heat inside. So you're not allowing this big open channel there. And of course, I don't know if I mentioned or not, but really the main thing that I built them for initially is to provide concealment so they're not seeing the big gap. So it really serves three purposes. We had a hunt, if any of you guys followed me on Instagram, you probably saw some of the photos, where one night we had, I don't know, probably 3 to 6 inches of snow. And so my boat was white. It was completely white, well, which was awesome because the ground was white. And we had a spot where we hung on the bank and my boat just blended in perfectly with the grass. You can almost not even see it in some photos. So that snow actually provides just some natural cover, and it was right on the tops too, so there wasn't big black spots other than where we were sitting. And we had those covered in really well. And we had birds finishing 5 yards away. So it does work. I would highly recommend building these as well. I'm gonna hop back to the back here and show you how those operate, and we will be good to go. We do have a door, just a regular door on a hinge back here, pops open. So this piece here is made initially to sit like that. You can probably see it from that angle even, that you can see up underneath here a little bit. So I think I like having it down on that motor. But if you were to be done hunting now and you wanted to drive, simply all you have to do, pop that up, close that, get all the excess fuel lines out of the way right now. Put that down, you put that down, and he is free to drive as far over as he needs to go, all the way out to here, basically. So pretty much full range motion driving on this. It's probably going to be a little bit tricky with the surface drive and all the extra wind drift that you'll catch from a boat like this. But he's going to try it and see how it works, I guess. Otherwise, the last step that I finished on this thing was, in addition, besides the painting, was putting this fencing on. This is just 2x3 square vinyl coated garden fencing, I guess you'd call it, from Menards. I think I used about 1.5 rolls on this boat. And all we do on this is we're just going to stuff tumbleweeds in here. Probably not use any kind of a base like a fast grass or whatever. On my boat I did. Again, I think on this one the extra weight is probably a little more than we want to add. So we're going to just try it first with just tumbleweeds, stuff them all in here, and make it look good and puffy, and it should be awesome. We're going to grab the camera here. I'm going to show you the insides, and we're going to call it good.